So here we are once again, everybody. I am uh, uh, Bill Wagner, and if you've seen anything that I've written or done online, you know that I am intensely fascinated with the mental side of esports because I've always said that esports is the battlefield of esports is in the um a brain, and where that's where those who are good at it focus their time. They improve their mental processes. They're constantly growing and learning and teaching themselves to think and process in certain ways. And I have with me today Jake. He recently presented some of his research that he did while he was a student. He did when he was a student last year. He just presented at the UC Irvine Esports Research Conference, which ended 4 days ago. As of of, of this recording, and I was talking to him, and I felt like it was necessary to bring him on because the what he focuses on is not just the hand-eye coordination. It isn't processing uh, the emotions around achievement and failure, but rather he focuses on your offline fitness, how being in shape somewhat, and and for certain people, it's funny because whenever I say be in shape, the usual response is, well, round is a shape. But what I'm talking about is spending time on your physical fitness, away from the keyboard, away from the screen. You don't you don't have your phone with you. You're just working on your body. So I have Jake with me. He's going to introduce himself a little bit, going to give a short background of who he is and what he does, and then once we get past that, we're going to get into his research, because while it might seem like that it's a no-brainer thought process, he found that there isn't really any scientific um, paper. There aren't really any scientific papers out there that show this correlation to be 100% true. So, Jake, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Thank you, Bill. So my name is Jake Middleton. I'm an esports trainer, basically a personal trainer that works in esports. And a little bit background on me. So growing up, I've been a gamer basically my entire life, and I've also played traditional sports like football, basketball, and baseball. So I was able to kind of learn a lot from them and the training that I did within traditional sports. I actually kind of transferred over into what I was doing with gaming, and so I got into esports back in 2006 and kind of started getting into competitive Halo. And so I started competing at some local tournaments, and then was able to then compete at national tournaments as well. And so for me, it was always just like something that made sense is like to take care of my body, my mind, and so on and so forth, and how that's going to correlate to my performance. And so besides that, once I went to college at Missouri State University, I was kind of like my senior year looking at like so what do I want to do? Um, and so I kind of thought about just merging my two passions, esports and kind of like fitness and sports performance. And so I did that research project my senior year, and um, basically did it as kind of a way to kind of like since there was no literature out there on these kind of topics, to kind of just kind of be a start, for it, and hopefully get the ball rolling so more research could come out, and so but with the research itself, like and of course I won't get it into it now, but going on to like education wise, I have an exercise science background, um, and then I've been working with my own business project, Esports Performance Lab, for about 3.5 years now, and
Mhm.
so I've been doing that, mostly focusing on education, like creating content around these topics, and then also working individually and with teams as well, kind of doing some consulting, helping them on a personal basis. And then I've actually volunteered to work with a team in Kansas City. But Kansas City is not, of course, not the biggest esports community. It's definitely growing here, which is great to see. Um, but it was good getting that in-person experience, and um, been making some partnerships too. That's been a big thing with Acer Predator. I partner with them, and so I create content for their training room, which is a digital content hub that kind of helps players with physical, mental, and strategic insights to help them improve their game. And so, been doing that, which has been great. And also some other projects too, like with High School Esports League, we are going to be working together to kind of work on a class that's actually approved by the state of Kansas,
Oh,
and
nice.
basically a part of it's like gaming concepts, and so a part of it is going to be health and wellness, and so I'm going to kind of help them out with that, and then hopefully, I mean, the goal would be to kind of like scale that to like where any kid can take it around the country. So um, that's a big project I'll be working on, and then some others as well, just trying to kind of develop that culture around health and wellness in esports,
Hmm.
kind of filling that void, and of course trying to like tear down some of these negative stereotypes and stuff, that come more from mainstream people outside of gaming. So um, that's pretty much a gist about me for the most part.
Very nice. Very nice. So I think it's important for people to know here that we're not just talking about um, watching somebody play a game, then you tell them, spend the next 24 hours, doing some jogging and some weightlifting and then coming back. We're talking about uh, a a a I guess the best way to put it is a lifestyle choice where you have structure to your life, and you work just as hard on on your own uh, body, staying in shape with a fitness program, weightlifting and cardio, as you do online, as you do on your social media presence. I think that while 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 there's the understanding that you need to get out from behind the computer, getting up from your keyboard and driving to Starbucks and sitting at a table and sitting at a table uh, with some friends friends and friends and having coffee isn't the same as getting out from behind your keyboard and having a program that you that is specifically designed to improve your overall performance, right?
Correct, yeah, and so that makes me think. So like, should have said too, like obviously it's not all just about like the exercise, nutrition, and things like that that will help with performance, but it's really just trying to help these kids, develop a holistic approach to their training rather than just like you said, like just grinding it out pretty much, which is kind of a major thing, especially at the pro level. And so even when kids, who have the skill who might go pro, once they get
Mm-hmm.
in that position, it's really hard for them because they haven't developed these other skills, right? And so it's great that they have support staff and things who can help them out. But a thing that I see and what I'm really trying to work on is at the high school and college level with this classes and stuff like that. So hopefully, if they do go pro, or if they don't, if they get into esports in some other way or whatever, they at least have these skills that they've learned, to be able to help them out. And so to basically just lead that healthy lifestyle, like you can get really advanced with it and like do
Mm-hmm.
specific types of training if you want to improve reaction time, hand-eye coordination, what's best to improve cognitive function, stuff like that. But really, I mean, it's just trying to get people more active. Anything is better than nothing at this point. That's what I always preach.
Right. Okay. So for the person out there who's grinding on the ladder right now, and they're thinking, okay, I probably need to fix other things in my life as well as get better playing League of Legends. What's one thing right now, if a person wanted to start at this exact moment in time, what's one change that somebody could make that if they stuck with it for a week, 2 weeks, would then it would it would it would it would give them a a positive result?
It's a good question. So there's a lot that you could do, but one thing I would say, I would say try to get more movement and physical activity if you're not, but I'm gonna go with, I'd say work on time management. So like that'd be the big thing. Like if you have, if you're in school, right, and you play in the evening and stuff like that, just try to have time management and balance all the other things you have going on in your life, whether that's family, friends, homework, stuff like that. Definitely sleep. Don't forget on sleep. That's a big thing too.
Right.
Um, so I would say it's just trying to like just manage your time better, realizing what your goals are. Um, Man, there's just so many I would want to recommend, but
Right.
I would say that that's a good place to start because then you can start fitting in things like okay, exercise, and then start planning out your nutrition. Like, what am I eating? How can I eat better? And
Hmm.
making sure I'm getting 8 hours of sleep at night and things like that. So really, just trying to like look from a bigger picture, like what my schedule's like, what it is I want to focus on, my goals, and then how I can balance all that stuff out.
Okay. So then if we're teaching time management, how do you teach a, a, a person who's maybe 14, 15, 16 years old? They're a teenager. They're full of energy. They're full of all sorts of of strength and power. How do you teach them? What do you say to somebody when you say to them, I'm going to teach you how to manage your time better? So when you start from the beginning with somebody who maybe has some self-discipline in their life, but they want to really learn how to how to schedule their day out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Um, I would kind of probably teach them about a concept. Uh, we all know it like from like training and stuff called periodization, or you can call it the growth equation. Basically, that is like stress plus rest equals growth. And so, like, if you're looking at your schedule and stuff like that, and you're looking at the things that like school, you can measure and see how much does that stress you out. Are you playing in a sport? Too, like how much activity are you doing? You can kind of like measure that stress too. Um, and just seeing all these other things, and like trying to balance that out so that you're basically getting enough rest too with the stress that you have. So that's where the growth comes in, because if you have too much stress, that's going to lead to burnout and stuff like that, and you really see that a variety of different levels, especially the pro level. But if you're too much rest, not focusing on these things, and stressing your mind, body, and stuff like that, then you become complacent and stuff. So try to just kind of explain that concept, I think. And then of course, for these young kids, it still might be difficult for them to do that. Um, but it's something where I would probably try to personally help them out. But um, just just trying to make sure that they're not doing too much, but they're not doing too little too. And then of course, trying to get resources to help them out. That's a big thing I'm trying to do right now, is
Mm-hmm.
providing certain resources. So 'cause I have a lot of people ask, like where can I find information on this and this and this, and a lot of it's just not specific to esports. And so I'm kind
Right.
of working on a project, which we could talk more about sometime too, uh, which is to kind of be a place where any player or any coach or anything could come to find resources that'll help them out.
So what it sounds like from what you're saying is that you're trying to teach moderation to people. Is that it when people get the I guess the when the bug bites people and that they see that they have some skill when it comes to 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 gaming, and they become obsessed with getting better and getting better and getting better and getting better. There was How do you teach somebody that spending 12 hours in a row playing League of Legends, you're going to hit a point of diminishing returns?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing, because I've talked with like other professionals, especially at the pro level, and that's a problem that they have, because they'll tell their players this and stuff, but it's not necessarily, they may know that too, but it's one thing of knowing and another thing of doing. And so um
Okay.
my hope is, hopefully, as more research comes out too, like that'll be a big indicator and point, you can see the science, it's objective data. And so hopefully that'll kind of show more people, more players, could convince them to do that. But I think more of it right now is just more education, more awareness and stuff. And so, and then obviously growing like with what I'm doing, more people getting into the space doing this,
Hmm.
to really be able to work with these kids and so on and so forth. And so, obviously, it's very early right now, and so
Right.
hopefully down the road this keeps growing and it can get to that point.
Perfect. So okay, so let's talk let's talk specifically about your research. So like I said, 4 days ago you were at the UC Irvine Esports Research Conference, and you presented your study. So go ahead and talk about your study. Talk about your your thought process going in, a little bit of the 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 methodology that you use, and then your results.
Okay, yeah, this I was really excited about doing this research. It was my senior year of college. It was basically for an exercise science degree. You could do an internship or you could do a research project. So I did the research project and basically wanted to make it specific to esports. And my thought process was, I was looking at the space and there was really no literature on this. So I wanted to do a study that just to see what the results would be on exercise programming, how that affects esports performance, and then also to kind of like hopefully get other researchers and people to see this stuff and start putting more research time into these kinds of health and wellness practices. And so for the study, um, of course, my school, Missouri State University, didn't have like the biggest esports community, so I wasn't able to get a lot of participants. I actually think there was a big league community there because it is a big school. But when people saw the study, they're probably like, League of Legends, that's cool. And then they see the exercise and they're like, oh no, I probably don't want to do that. So fortunately, I was only able to get 6 participants. One ended up dropping out, but at least for me, it was just a start for this kind of research. And so, but basically, what I did was I did a pre-trial tournament where I had these guys playing 1v1s against each other. It was a double elimination bracket, and basically took performance statistics from each game for each player, things like kill death ratio, creep score, um, win percentage, and stuff like that. And then after the tournament and everything was recorded, then I randomly assigned them one of two groups. One was an exercise group, and then the other was a no exercise control group. And so after that, there was a 4-week trial period where the exercise group did 3 workouts a week. 2 were cardio workouts, and then 1 was a full body weightlifting workout. And then after that 4-week trial period, we did a post trial tournament, exactly like the pre trial tournament, and then basically compared the data from the post trial to the pre trial. And interestingly enough, the exercise group outperformed significantly in the post trial tournament than they did in the pre trial, whereas the control group decreased in performance. And so obviously, it's not enough to conclude, but basically with the research, like the discussion that we were doing was the main thing that was important with the research was basically explaining, okay, so we know exercise, there's tons of research on how it affects physiology, psychology, health, performance benefits, and stuff like that. So it makes sense that it would help improve performance. But now here's finally a study specific to esports that kind of actually shows that. Um, so that's pretty much the whole thought process behind that. And then I haven't published it yet, but I was obviously able to present it at the UCI Esports Research Conference last week, which was an awesome event. Shout out to UCI for putting that together, getting researchers from pretty much all over the world. There's a guy from France, there's a guy from South America. So it was
Wow.
really cool to see just a variety of different research, and hopefully more stuff like that will be happening down the road too. Um, but yeah, and then hopefully I do hope to publish this research at some point. I think down the road there's probably going to be some sort of journal specific to esports, and so I'm going to kind of just keep an eye out for that.
Very nice. And for those who don't really grasp what Jake's talking about, is that for 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 a scientific paper to be taken seriously, you don't just do it and walk away from it. You do it, you put it out, you let people with similar understandings and similar backgrounds look at it. They check the methodology, they the processes that you use, because results will vary based upon processes that you use and the variables that you have. And the what makes a paper truly a scientific paper and something that is accepted by the community in general is if is if is if what you found in the paper, Jake. I mean, if you so those specific results, if somebody can take your exact same variables and your exact same methodology and come up with with results that are almost exactly the same, that lends credence to your thought process, and that's how you build authority, and that's how you build your own background. You just don't do one paper and then walk away from it and say you're done and do something else. You take a theory and you test it and you test it and you test it and you test it and you test variations of the theory.
Yep.
So that right, exactly. So you test you would so if somebody used your same variables and your same processes and your same methodology, but changed one thing, one small variable. Like, for example, you told me that all the participants in your study were all mid laners, right?
Actually not. So they did for the League of Legends, like they just stayed in mid lane only, is what I meant for the 1v1s. But I mean, they were all like I did take like their weight, BMI, and stuff like that. So that might be variables too.
Sure. So if somebody took your study and instead of having all the players in the same spot on the map doing mid lane, if you found a bunch of junglers and did the exact same study and came up with the exact same results or close enough, then that lends credence to your thought process, right?
Right. Yep. And I hope if that does happen to get a bigger sample size too, and hopefully they see the same thing.
Right. And that's something else that people who don't understand what the scientific method is about. Sample size is vital. Is that and to say this in the simplest terms possible without explaining without spending 20 minutes I'm explaining math. You can take any population and there's a bell curve, and in the middle what you will have is the most people doing the most common thing. And at each end, obviously, you have the extremes. Well, a small sample size like you had of 5, you don't know where on the distribution that falls. Is it 5 people above the mean, 5 people below the mean? Is it 1 person above and 4? It's so when people take your theory and they test it and they test it and they test it, so say the next person that tests it at a different school, instead of a sample size of 5, they have 25. Well, that's a larger sample size, so you can find their place on the. So you can show their results in the curve better, right?
Correct. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think there's a lot here that when you take this study, Jake, and you repeat it and you repeat it and you keep on doing it, I think that what people generally believe will be shown to be true. But one of the great things about the scientific process that people don't get is that there's a concept called serendipity. And what serendipity really boils down to is the randomness that happens in general in life. I mean, you can control for every variable possible that you can possibly think of, and something will just it's just like the most randomest thing out of nowhere that you wouldn't think that would make sense, but you just realize, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, or that's you control for everything, and you realize that there's differences you didn't account for based upon age, or differences that you may not have accounted for based upon weight, or someone being left-handed or right-handed, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I yeah, totally agree with that too. And like, even if someone or myself was to like replicate the study, like say I didn't get the same results, I mean, obviously more would need to be done to then, find out whether it's true or not. But I think as of now, the great thing about with my study specifically is like there's so much research on exercise and what it does to the body and the mind and stuff like that. Like it's one of those things. It's like you said earlier, like it's just like like, oh yeah, that's got to be helpful. And so like just now, kind of seeing it, hopefully more uh, specific to esports will be good to convince people, um, like through the scientific process, like you're saying. And then even if it doesn't, honestly, if it doesn't affect performance in whatever way, I still think like it's great to do because then the health aspect too, right? These players are you're predominantly sedentary for long periods of time, and
Right.
so getting the movement and stuff like that, just for a health aspect, I think is really important. And obviously, being around like electronic, um, they're writing a new article on blue light, how that can affect sleep and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like mental health obviously is a huge issue in esports, and so you know people need to realize moving and things you do physically really affect you mentally. So definitely doing that stuff just helps out all around.
Awesome, Jake's for far as taking time for me today. I really appreciate it. So as we shut this down, is there anything that you'd like to promote? Your own Twitter feed, or a website that you have?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at Esports Trainer One. I tweet about a variety of things within health and wellness and so on and so forth in the esports industry. And then you can also check out my website to learn more about myself and my work at esportsperformancelab.com.
Awesome, Jake. Thank you very much for taking time for me today. I know that you have a lot going on. There's a lot of things for you to handle each day, and for everybody that tunes in to listen to the to all these interviews that we do. Thank you very much. You can follow us on Twitter at you can follow us on Twitter and YouTube. We will put those links in the description below, as well as all of Jake's information. So like I said, for taking time for me today. Thank you very much, sir.
Yep. Thank you, Bill.
All right, everybody, stay tuned. I will definitely have more interviews coming up. So as far as tuning in, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.